if
White and blue running through my veins. On the pitch where the glory remains. The cockerel stands brave on the crest. North London pride, this ain't no jest. From lane to the new shining ground. Echo chants where the legends are found. Heroes carved in the heart of time. We march on through grit and grime. Oh, Tottenham, Tottenham, till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Oh, Tottenham, Tottenham, till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Echoes of King and Greaves in the air. Every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to THFC Tottenham Till We Die. I'm Big James. Right beside me is my main man, Steve. How are we doing, Steve? Are you well?
Oh yeah, man. I can't complain, man. This is a Saturday afternoon here in the fighting state of Michigan. And I'll tell you what, man, it's just a gorgeous afternoon, man. I'm actually kind of digging the early summer vibes out here, man. Everything is great, man. How's everything over there in the greater Doncaster area?
I'd love to say it's been a lovely day, but we've been plagued by heavy downpours, high winds. It's not great for June, to be fair. I was expecting warmer weather and being out in garden, sunglasses on, beer in hand, but hey, we can't all have it our way. But yeah, that is what it is. It's just typical English weather. Typical English weather.
Because I thought I thought that it started to get nice in the UK like right around like May, June, right? Where you have the summer months and then it just turns to crap again.
Yeah, it usually does. It usually does. We were spoiled, I think, in April, where we had some nice weather in April and early May, and then it's just gone downhill again. Global warming, man. Global warming. That's what we'll put it down to. Anyway, Anyway, we've got an exciting show for you tonight, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is we are talking new managers, and certainly we've got some things to chat about with regards to Enoch and Levy and the investment in the club. But first things first. Let's talk about new managers. And this is what the bookies are saying. It's going across the bottom of the screen now. This is what the latest odds on who the Spurs' next manager is going to be. Obviously, there is always the chance of a curveball coming completely out of left field. I mean, Steve, what do you think? What do you think about the names going across the bottom there?
It seems like the long shots are the two better fits for this club. That being said, I would probably assume that the reason why the odds are high on Glasner and Pochettino is because of whether or not there's actual interest for either coming to Tottenham at this stage, which is probably why they're 22 and 25 to 1. The surprising one is Xavi at 14 to 1. I thought it might be a little lower, just because there has been mutual. I think there has been mutual interest. From not only Xavi's point of view, but also the club's point of view. And it's surprising to see him at 14 to 1, but it's not surprising at all to see Frank as the front runner in this one. And again, I asked you prior to the show, like, what is the appeal?
Yeah.
What is the actual appeal in Thomas Frank? Because he seems like he's a system manager for Brentford. Because I think when he came over from Bromby, he was an assistant coach first. Gets promoted, and I think in his first year in charge, he finishes 11th in the championship. The next 2 seasons were third place finishes before they eventually got up. And once Brentford was up, credit to him, he kept Brentford up. So I understand he's a calming presence. He's a stabilizing type of figure. And if that is the reason why Tottenham is going in that direction, because they feel like they need some stability in that position, fair enough. But
I mean,
when you're going from CV to CV, when you look at Ange Postecoglou's CV versus Thomas Frank, Postecoglu has the better CV when it comes to actually winning things.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Thomas Frank's actual Premier League record, it doesn't make for appealing reading. To be fair, so I mean, I've got his actual Premier League record with Brentford, because that's the only Premier League club he's managed, and that is 152 matches played. Out of those 152 matches, he's won 54, he's drawn 38, and he's lost 60. So he's lost more games than he's won. Mm-hmm. His goals for is 228, and his goal against is 224. So that to me is not a top quality manager. That's a manager that's managing a basic mediocre team, and he's doing a mediocre job. I mean, they're not tearing up trees, Brentford, here. So, I mean, what do you think to them figures, Steve?
Well, the interesting thing is, it's the first thing that folks that would support Thomas Frank is they'll say, oh well, it's Brentford, they don't spend money. Well, but that being said, you also look at their scouting model, and it's almost like Brighton, where they have they have these algorithms that are able to unearth these gems, get them through the door. It mitigates risk. All that's great. But that being said, you still have the ability to coach up some of these players and put them in positions where they're going to actually be able to do a good job. You look at I think the model is that they're going to develop and to sell. So they're never going to keep players around. So that's going to be the excuse of the reason why Brentford consistently finishes like 10th through 13th every single season, somewhere in that range. But that being said, the ability to do more with what you have while they're there. Wouldn't you say that would be the sign of a good coach, is maximizing talent while they're there, being able to, at the very least, go on a cup run?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely. Yeah, I mean, Brentford have they have caused some upsets in cup competitions,
Sure.
and I think that I think the word that they use to describe like sort of Brighton and Brentford sort of philosophy is Moneyball. Buy them
Yeah.
young, buy them cheap, bring them on, develop them, flog them for a massive profit.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I can see the appeal for Levy on that. I mean, buy chip players cheap, buy them young, develop them, and then sell them for massive profit. And to be damned with the football club. It doesn't matter if you don't do anything because we're making money. And I think it's the wrong. I mean, I might be proven wrong. If Thomas Frank comes in, he could.
Now, is he going? Now, let me ask you a question. If Thomas Frank comes in, is he going to be involved in the decision making process when it comes to the transfer strategies? I.e., is there going to be some sort of algorithm model that he's bringing from Brentford to Tottenham? Like I'm like, or is this strictly just he's the coach? That's it. That's his job.
Yeah. So it's a good question, really. I mean, gone is the days where a head coach was known as a manager because they used to manage the club. And now they are classified as more as head coaches. Their job is to coach. The director of football is in charge of transfers and looking at where the team needs to strengthen. I mean, I believe there's probably some communication or will be some communication between Frank and Paratici when Paratici comes in. But I don't think that he'll have no say in it. I think he'll have some say in it.
Yeah, because I would assume that the scouting model is something completely different from Brighton. Excuse me, not Brighton, but Brentford. We don't have we don't have scouts on the ground in South America, that type of thing. Where where at the that's the whole point of their scouting model. They don't need boots on the ground because of they have their computer systems that are able to do that work for them. I just don't think we have that type of scouting model. You know what I mean?
No,
so
we do.
It's going to be a different type of player.
Yeah, I mean, we have a good scouting network at Tottenham. I think the scouting network that we do have is one of the best. But I think that the problem is that the people at the very top of that scouting network never listen to the scouts. Because you've got to think the scouts are there to do one thing and one thing only. Go watch games of football, go watch players, and look at who we're going to sign. Who impresses you? Who do you think is going to improve us? Who do you think has got the ability, the potential ability, as well as the current ability? These are the things that scouts look at. And we have a good scouting network. I mean, they unearthed Bergval, they unearthed Dele Alli, they
Correct.
Mickey van der Ven was only young and a pretty much unknown name before he came to Tottenham. Gareth Bale is another one.
Harry
yeah.
Kane, I mean, the list goes on. We've had very good. You're absolutely right about that. Hey, James, before we dive into it, let's go ahead and hit the chat. Also, for all those guys that are tuning in, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button because we are on a race to 5,000 subs before the end of the 2025-2026 season, as well as the memberships as well too, because we will be doing a lot of membership shows. So there's different levels of which you can attain, which will allow you to join us when we do our membership show. So make sure that you take care of that. We're going to start off with Lee Carrick here, who says, "Good evening, ladies and gents. I'm 4 weeks into treatment for a serious illness. Weeks left to go. I'll catch up with you when I'm better. United fan forever. THFC channel member for life." Well, we definitely think we definitely appreciate that. But more importantly, get well, my guy. Get well as soon as possible. And always remember that in this community, it's very easy to get a hold of me, James, or Derma if you need to talk. And always know that this is a community where if you need help, it's going to be there for you if you need it, man. But take care of yourself, man.
We're family. We're family.
Yeah.
We're family. We're all one big family here, and we look after our own.
Absolutely. He goes on to say, "Stay safe, you beautiful souls." That was actually quite kind of you, Lee. Get well, my guy. Casey Flockhart, who checks in, and she's looking rather nice in her picture there. He is Thomas Frank. Thank you, manager for Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe. Simon Cohen checks in. Is it Frank or Silva? I guess we're about to find out. Simon, who do you want? That's really what it comes down to. Who do you actually want? Chinwag Spurs will be Frank. Yeah, it's kind of looking like that. It's kind of looking like that, isn't it, James?
Yeah, I mean, the odds are very heavily leaning towards Thomas Frank. But I mean, look, I can understand why, like I said, Levy would be interested in someone like Thomas Frank. He's not going to cost a hell of a lot of money on wages. But I think it's a gamble. It's a big gamble. And I think if it goes wrong, the fans aren't going to turn on Thomas Frank very quickly. They will turn even more on Levy. And the noise that's been surrounding the protests around the club and things like that, they will only intensify. Yeah. I mean, we can only hope that what information I've been given today is that there has been discussions with 3 potential new managers today. And the board will discuss this over the course of the next few days. And we should be looking at maybe an announcement. I'm hoping early next week, but it wouldn't surprise me if we sort of go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. So 7 days after Ange's gone, we may get an update on or we may get a new manager in. Literally probably just as this short transfer window slams shut. So we've got no chance of getting anybody in this early window. We'll probably have a new manager in, and then they've got then they have a week at the job to sort of look things over, look at the players, and then get ready for the main summer window.
Right. Preparing for training camp and all that good stuff. Simon Cohen says we need a recruitment team first. I actually think we need a strategy. I don't know if we have one right now. He also goes on to say the ladies women's manager is getting the sack, and I heard the women's team actually had an atrocious season this year. Did they get relegated? I don't know, but I think they were in a relegation scrap.
I'm not sure if they got relegated, but I think it was close.
Yep. I don't know either. Chinwag Spurs says need a manager first. Yeah. Philip Brady. I don't buy all this press speculation about the players' revolt not going to happen. I buy some of it because as the news broke, you saw a lot of players head to their social media, essentially, pouring out their love for the gaffer there. And it looks like especially during that injury crisis and also that run of instability where we were wondering whether or not there were certain players that were not on the same page with Ange Postecoglou. It turns out they were very much on the same page with Ange Postecoglou, and that all these posts on social media reflect that. So I would probably assume they weren't exactly happy because it sounded like the players wanted to run it back with Ange for this upcoming season. They wanted to run it back, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, we did question it. Were the players playing for Ange? But they clearly were. They were clearly all behind him. They were clearly all on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet. Whichever analogy you want to use, it seemed like they were all together on this. And we don't know what goes off in a dressing room. So like I say, it looks like the players were all behind, and there's been some very touching words said from the players to Ange. I don't believe a revolt will happen because these guys are professionals. I think it's gonna be an interesting time. It's not an exciting time, I wouldn't say. I'm not excited by all this, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens, how we're going to move forward, how we're going to keep going. Is there going to be progression, or are we going to are we going to go backwards again before we start going forwards? And that's my biggest fear, is that we'll go backwards again before we start going forwards.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. They're professional, right? And they also have to take some accountability here, because they're also part of the reason why he got fired, because of their league performance. There's no way around it. Yeah, you can excuse some of the injuries, but that being said, they were back at a period of time this season where there was still something, I guess you can say, they're left to play for in the season. It seems like they were also on board with putting all their eggs in that Europa League basket. So some of these players also have some accountability. And before we continue, this last one right here, he says, Boris says, Jesus Christ, Tuchel ball is a snore fest. We only won 1-0 against Andorra. Andorra of all freaking teams. That's funny.
Yeah, it was it was pretty dismal. To be fair, it wasn't. I mean, if you looked at the stats of the game, you'd think we were absolutely really unlucky not to put 10 past them, but it was just boring. I sort of turned off after, once Harry Kane had scored and we went 1-0 up, I was like, yeah, that's it. That game's done now. When I turned it off, I was I'm done with this.
That's funny. I actually didn't watch it because they were playing Andorra. And I mean, if this was like England, Germany, England, Italy, England, France, I probably would have watched it, or even England, Scotland. But good Lord, I'm going to do this one real quick, because I think this actually touches on where we're about to go. Boris says Paratici won't allow the money ball model. He will give the manager the signings he needs. If it was Lang, that probably would happen.
Yeah, I agree. It probably would. And like I say, it comes down. There was one that I want to touch on. Let me see if I can. Chinwag Spurs says Thomas Frank is absolutely brilliant, and come on you Purs says yes he is. I disagree with you both, guys. I look, he's a good manager, but I disagree with you both. His record does not tell me he's a brilliant manager. It's a bang average manager, his record tells me. And that's just his stats, but he's a bang average manager by his stats. I wouldn't say he's brilliant. I wouldn't say he's next level. But then again, I wouldn't have said Ange Postecoglou was next level manager for us.
Right.
But like I say, that's just my opinion, guys. I just disagree with you both. I do apologise if you. I apologise if you don't agree with me, but I just think his stats don't scream take him to a top club.
Well, the interesting thing, like it's the reasoning behind why you want him, right? Like if the reality is that you feel like you need this, like Tottenham needs to be stabilized, then that actually makes sense, because one of the things that he had managed to do at Brentford, regardless of whether where they're at spending wise in the Premier League, and I know it's down there at the bottom. I think somebody highlighted that it was 19th in the Premier League. But that being said, from that standpoint, it's understandable, because he kind of is a stabilizing force. But that being said, though, you look at his record versus the top half of the top half of the table versus the bottom half of the table. You look at his overall record at Brentford, what he was able to accomplish with the players that he had when he had them before they were ultimately sent along for a profit. James has already highlighted. Matter of fact, get into it. Read those stats again, because I do know that I think he had a losing record against the top half of the Prem, and also didn't have a run in Europe. Also didn't have a cup run, and I also think that Ange Postecoglou beat him in the head-to-head as well too.
Yeah. So his stats for his managerial stats for Brentford is 152 matches played, 54 wins, 38 draws, and 60 losses. 228 goals scored and 224 goals conceded.
A +4 differential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, thingy. I mean, look, I'm getting pestered about it, so I will bring it up. Tequila keeps telling me, he says Brentford have what was it? 19th lowest wages in the Premier League. So, yeah, I mean, again, fits Levy's model. Thingy, you lower your wages down, or do you mean the quality of players that Brentford have are not fantastic and they're all bargain basement kind of players, and we should be looking at Thomas Frank and saying he's a miracle worker for being able to work what he is.
Consistently
what he's done.
Place finishes. You know what I mean? Keeping Brentford above the drop. But that being said, it's like also look at what Tottenham's transfer strategy has been over the last year and a half. Right? It is routinely going younger in that 18 to 22-year-old range, where you're getting players that do have first team, top flight first team experience, but you're bringing them into a Premier League level where you're going to want to coach them up and move them along. You know what I mean? That seems to be like the model of Tottenham Hotspur. They're trying to build with a young core, keeping them in North London for at least 4 or 5 seasons. But that being said, it's designed to do its job to keep the wage sheet small. There's a reason why we're not targeting experienced players. Not that we can't afford them; it's because we're not going in that direction. So they're trying to hire a manager that fits that model of being able to work with young players and potentially get them punching above their weight. So I understand Thomas Frank in a vacuum. I get it, 100%. I just but that's the question. The question I always have is, what's the ambition? Do we want to be that team that's constantly bringing in young talent and keep on building that core, or are we eventually going to want to be that team where we're actually competing for Premier League titles, making deep runs in the Championship League? What's our ambition? Because Thomas Frank to me doesn't necessarily scream ambition. It screams safe. It screams safe.
And since we're just coming up to the half an hour mark, I would like Tequila's put it into the chat for me because I forgot to do it last night. This video, our channel is sponsored by Private Internet Access VPN. It is our channel sponsor. Please use the following link. It's in the chat to get yourself 2 years access plus 4 free months for half the price of other VPNs that are out there in the market. Like I say, follow that link. And at the moment, guys, there is a 85% sale on your VPNs that you can get. It enables you to protect all your data, keep you nice and safe, keep it secure, because you don't want these nasties getting into your devices. It can be used on your mobile, on your laptop, on your consoles. It can be used on any device in your home. Also, if like me, like Steve, you want to watch the 3 o'clock kickoffs when the new season kicks off, or even the friendlies, and they're not streamed and they're not shown in the UK, change your location with Private Internet Access. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm 100% sure you will find yourself a stream, and also it will protect you from anybody getting into you while watching these streams. Private Internet Access, guys, I've signed up to it. I use it. It's absolutely first class. It's brilliant. I wouldn't use another VPN now. I think it's so easy to use. It's just literally one button, off you go, set your location, done. I'm secure. I'm safe. So yeah, guys, Private Internet Access. Please follow the link and get your VPNs there. So yeah, so there's a few other things I want to talk about tonight, Steve. I mean, we talked about it off air a little bit. Obviously, the manager is going to be the main talking point for the next few days until we get some clarity. But I was doing some digging around today, and doing a little bit of research about the club, and because everyone sort of gets on the bandwagon of, oh, we haven't spent money and things like that. And I agree, we haven't backed managers and we haven't spent money. People will say, yeah, but Ange spent over 400 million in the 2 years that he was at was at Spurs. But I'm just going to read this out for you and tell me what you think about this. So, since ENIC and Levy took over the club,
Okay.
they have invested roughly around about £5 million per season. That is investment cash going into the club of £5 million per season. Now, everything else comes from commercial revenue, season ticket sales, match day sales, player sales, and sponsorship. Every other bit of money that Tottenham spend comes from that. So 5 million per season. And to give you a comparison, and like I know I've told you this before, but to give you a comparison, during Roman Abramovich's era at Chelsea, every season they had nearly £75 million of investment. And where Spurs rank in investment wise within the club being put in, they are lower than half of the Championship. So like the Premier League, we're pretty much below all them, and the Championship, and nearly half of the Championship have more money injected into them by their owners. Can you understand the reason why, or do you think, should I say, the reason why Spurs have languished in struggling for the last 17 years is because of this lack of investment from ENIC and Levy?
I think it's a quest for sustainability, right? And when I say sustainability, I mean risk averse, right? One of the things that one of the reasons why sustainability is such a buzzword is because it allows them to be able to operate a model where every single year that money, that profit, that revenue is able to sustain that club from a year to year where you don't have to invest your money, where you don't have to, and over that course of time, it allowed them to gain capital. Let me rephrase that. It allowed them that type of franchise valuation, so to speak, where they're able to draw off that. Like for instance, like when they wanted to build the new training center, their training grounds, they were able to draw essentially what ultimately is low interest bonds and loans that were able to finance those type of projects. Same thing with the stadium as well too. But that being said, when it comes to actual ambition versus a guy like Roman Abramovich, and mind you, they had, if Tottenham wanted to play that game, they could. They just choose not to. Let's understand that real quick. But what this is a model that allows them to be as risk averse as they possibly can, while every single year their entity, which is Tottenham Hotspur, continues to grow and grow and grow in valuation, because the end game, that's the thing. It's like football is not like when you own a football team, it's not about the short game, it's the long game, because eventually you're going to sell that. And if you do your job correctly, and I guess you could say hats off to Daniel Levy, because he had a vision and he implemented it and it worked year after year after year. This team grew, and I think they're the eighth, according to Deloitte's Money League, they're the eighth most profitable team as far as revenue in the world, right? So when they sell it, chances are pretty good they're going to walk away with $5 billion, and that's the end game. That's the reason why. That's the reason why. It is all about being as risk averse as you possibly can. Where a guy like Roman Abramovich is like, dude, if this is football, the product is football, right? So we're going to do the best that we possibly can, and we're going to bring trophies home, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. And if we lose money, whatever. But that being said, we're still going to be able to sell players on. So we're still going to be able to to make profit off certain players and still reinvest it. But that being said, if I want to go out there and bring in the world's best coach, or if I want to go spend 80 million pounds on a certain player, I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful. And and I know people say, "Oh well, Levy and Nick, they built the ground, they built the new stadium. They didn't pay for it.
They didn't pay
what they did is they got loans, and they secured those loans against the assets of the club.
Yeah, the value of what the club is worth. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Why spend your money when you can spend somebody else's? 100%.
Exactly. To me, it makes no sense, and it kind of. I mean, when I saw it, I mean, I've been a Spurs fan I'm 44 years old. I would say I've been a Spurs fan for 44 years, but obviously I didn't come out of the womb wearing a Spurs shirt. But I clearly remember being a Spurs fan from like 5, 6, so a good nearly 40 years I've been a Spurs fan, and I never actually understood the level of lack of investment within the Spurs club, within Tottenham. I honestly thought that when it come down to, and this is naivety on my part, is that when it come down to transfers and things like that, that this was all coming from the board and the owners. They were like, okay, you need 100 million for this player. Here's 100 million. And when players were sold, that money was then sent back to the owner because he's already chucked in a load of money. But yeah, so I that was my naivety and me not understanding.
I know it's funny.
I've just seen Tequila's comment.
The interesting thing though, it's like this is the interesting part about it, right? The way Tottenham operate is the way that every professional team in the United States operates as well too, right? Like you understand that Daniel Levy is good friends with Roger Goodell, who is the commissioner of the National Football League, right? He like runs in those circles with other owners as well too, and so Daniel Levy understands the American model of operating professional sports franchises and milking the asset for all it's worth financially, right? Because you can make billions of dollars, millions of pounds, hundreds of millions of dollars off the name of that franchise, and because they're in the Premier League, they also have the most expensive TV deal in the world. And so from that standpoint, that's what the end game is. It's I hate to say this, but for Daniel Levy and Enoch, it is not, football is the secondary responsibility. The first responsibility is making sure that their shareholders that sit on that board are profitable year after year after year, which means you're going to clock the name Tottenham Hotspur Football Club for everything it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up David Clark. David Clark says Tottenham Hotspur FC is a football club. If the billionaire owners don't want to invest money into the club, then get the hell out of our club. Lewis and Levy purchased our club on the club's debt frauds. Absolutely. Absolutely 100% agree with you, David. Get the hell out of the club. They bought it on the cheap, and I mean, they have got to have made hundreds of millions of pounds out of Spurs.
Yeah,
hundreds of millions over the course of the last 20 years. And I just think it's a disgrace that they continue to plead poverty with the fans. Oh yeah, but we've invested, but we've invested so much money into the team and the infrastructure. No, you haven't. You haven't invested a goddamn penny. And where was it? David Clark also says that since 2018, Aston Villa owners have invested 600 million. So in 7 years, Aston Villa have invested 6 times more than what Enoch and Levy have invested in 20 years. That's crazy.
And look at
And
where
you wonder
Aston
what
Villa- and look at where
exactly,
Villa's at. Right.
exactly.
There is direct correlation to into massive capital investment into your football club and where you sit at the end of the season when it comes to the table. It's like gone are the days, and mind you, this wasn't that long ago, where Tottenham could actually have the way sheet with the type of players that Mauricio Pochettino had at his disposal and have that 5-year run of stability. Me personally, I think those days are over, and it wasn't really all that long ago. I hate to be the one to say it, but I seriously, I don't think you can be a consistent top 4 team on a shoestring budget. Just my thought.
No, you can't. You really can't. It's it's been dismal, is what I would say.
David Clark also says Joe Lewis has just installed his own man on the Spurs board, Peter Charrington, the ex-CEO of Citibank, and Enoch and Tavistock. Lives on the Tavistock estate in the Bahamas. Lewis forced change on Levy, and it sounds like that's going to be the new chairman. My question is it going to continue to be business as usual? That's all, right? Because we know the business in which Levy operates, but you would probably assume that this is more for PR than it actually is for football, correct?
Yeah, I think it probably is, and Joe Lewis's sort of hands are tied a little bit with regards to his convictions that happened in America. So, and I understand that his daughter is a big Tottenham fan and that she wants to do things. But if that's true, if that is true that he's put this guy on the board, then what's his credentials? What does he bring to the table? Or is it just another? Levy ally?
Correct. Me personally, now does this mean that Levy just takes a standard business role while Charrington and what's his ass Vinay, the new CEO, these two are actually going to focus on the football side while Levy just operates on the business side? You know, what is the structure? Or is it just to force Levy out of the club altogether?
I don't think that. Well, they can't force him out of the club because he owns
right. But as far as being hands-on,
I mean, they can stop him from. Yeah, they can stop him from being hands-on. Absolutely. So, yeah, they can definitely stop him from being hands-on, and they could probably get somebody else to be that the face of the club. But do you honestly think Daniel Levy's going to step back? I don't see it happening.
You'd have to buy him out. You'd have to buy him
absolutely. Out. For him to take a step back, you'd have to buy him out. I mean, look, he doesn't have majority shareholders or majority shares, but he has big shares. He's got, like I say, over 20% of the stake in this club. He's got swing and he's got power. So I think the only way of doing it is let's get this takeover done.
Mm-hmm.
And new owners. Then Levy can take a long walk off a short cliff or short pier. Sorry. And I hope he enjoys his retirement on the money that Spurs have made him.
David Clark goes on to say, I think Joe Lewis's daughter has put pressure on her dad to force Levy to change course. She knows that her dad is in his twilight years and knows that what the trust paperwork holds. Yeah.
100%, David. Again,
I also heard that Lewis's daughter actually doesn't like Daniel Levy at all.
No, she doesn't. She hates him.
That's
she. There is. there's been reported conflict between those two for quite a few years, and I hate to say it, but she called him an arrogant, bald something. I can't remember the exact word, but I know it was arrogant, bald. It was something to do with his height. It could have been dwarf or something like that. I can't remember the. Yeah, something like that. It's it has been very well documented that they had a very, very big falling out. I'd love her to take charge personally.
I would too.
If she's as big a Spurs fan as what I don't know, Tequila. Google her.
That's funny.
Google her.
That's funny. Is she hot? Is she hot? That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, we should Google her. But the interesting thing though is that I think this is what I think. I think this year really was a wake up call to the board, and I think they had to have taken notice of what happened this year. And it wasn't just the play on the field, which at times was horrendous this year, but it was also, think of all the change for Tottenham protests that were happening outside the stadium and inside the stadium, the unrest with the fan base, right? This club absolutely lives and breathes on their season ticket holders, the fans that are coming in on fans that come in on game day, game day, the single game day tickets, all the merchandise it sells, all the concessions that it sells, and when you have unrest in your fan base, when you have unrest in your revenue stream, that is something that the board definitely takes ahead, takes into consideration and say, yeah, like, okay, that's great. That's great that we won the Europa League. Okay, fine. But the reality was there was a lot of unrest before that final push to the Europa League, and there was a lot of people that I talked to that flat out said they weren't renewing their season tickets, and it was a combination of poor play, poor planning by the board when it came to the transfer windows, the lack of ambition, and we're talking long-time season ticket holders that say, you know what, I'm probably not going to renew, and that's something. Yeah. I think that's something that they have to take. They have to take in consideration. And again, all of this has compounded. I would use the term apexed into a situation where the one thing that Spurs fans are universally agree at is the fact that they absolutely hate Daniel Levy. Yeah,
I think you'd be hard pushed to find a Daniel Levy fan at the moment. Just to answer Tequila's question, no, she's not.
I do have a quick update that I should pass along. The U.S. men's national team are currently leading 1-0 over Turkey. So fantastic.
You're happy. You're a happy camper.
I'm happy. I just wanted to throw that in there. But the interesting thing though is David Clark again. And by the way, David Clark has been throwing heat all afternoon in this chat room. He says Daniel Levy married and begrudgingly took over her dad's business, which he hated, and as soon as her father died, sold the company. That's Daniel Levy.
Yeah. And for anybody else that wants to know what his daughter looks like, that is Joe Lewis's daughter.
She's kind of good looking.
No, she's really not. That's
would I say that? Would I put her in the classification of a 7, 8, 9, or 10? No, but she's a solid 6, man. She's a solid 6.
She's a bit old for me.
How old is she?
Hang on. God. How old is Vivian Lewis?
I'm in. Does anybody got her number? I'm just playing. Tequila says, "Get in there, Steve." Like a boss.
I've spelled her name wrong now.
Jazz Fusion says prettier than Levy.
Yeah, definitely prettier than. Definitely prettier than. I can't find how old she is.
And Joe Louis made his original fortune on Black Wednesday when he put money on a prediction that the company was going to collapse. You know what?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I probably could understand why Joe Louis and Daniel Levy get along, because they operate with ruthless pragmatism. These guys don't look like dummies to me. Just saying.
So she's 62.
I'm in there.
62.
I'm in.
Yeah, a bit old for me.
I'm in. But that being said, when I think about this, right? Because Joe Louis and Dan, let me rephrase that. Because those that are running the Louis Trust and Daniel Levy, sugar mummy for Steve, yeah. Any type of takeover, you would expect those two to, they're going to want to maximize the true value of this club. And I think the last time I checked, it was like $3.25 billion. But they're going to want to sell for it. They're probably going to want to sell for $5 billion, right? They're going to try to milk this as much as they can.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that I found interesting is that over in England, in the UK, the valuation was somewhere between 3 to 3.5 billion, but reports from America put the figure more at 2.5 billion. And then all of a sudden we win the Europa League, and then it jumps up to 5 billion. I don't think just Champions League alone increases the value of a club by 1.5 billion.
Well,
and
what is the revenue model for the Champions League now with the group stage? Because each team gets like 100 million for participating, but you get extra money if you advance out of the league phase, and then each individual round until you get to the final. Correct?
Yeah. So if you just for qualifying for the Champions League phase, it's somewhere in the region of around about 89 million. It's not quite 100 million. It's around about 89 million. Then per game played, you have, if you win that game, it's around about 4 million in prize money. Drawing is around about 2. You lose and you still get a little bit of money, but it's only hundreds of thousands. I think it's like 850,000. For qualifying for the round of 16, or even for the knockout playoff round, that gives you another 16 million. Qualifying for the quarterfinal, again, it goes up to like around about 32 million, and then it goes up to like 40 million for the reaching the semi-finals, not winning it. Reaching the final is somewhere in the region of an extra 60 million. And then there's also there's TV revenue and co-efficiency money, which is, it's really hard to work out exactly how it's all put together. But if you to say on a broad estimate, and this, please don't anybody quote me on this, because this is just a very broad estimate, qualifying to win and being a top 2 coefficiently ranked country, you could be looking at anywhere between 250 to 300 million in revenue.
I can see how that would raise the valuation of the club by 2-3%, though. I can see it. Now, but you would probably have to match a champion. You would probably have to get some consistent Champions League appearances, though, to really maximize that. A one-off Champions League appearance probably doesn't do it in a vacuum. It would have to be what we had under Pochettino, which is probably what the reason why we got to this level was off
Yeah,
the back
so
of Pochettino years.
someone like Manchester City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, year after year after year, reaching the latter stages of the Champions Leagues, their payments, their coefficient payments would be a lot higher. So just for argument's sake, say next year, Bayern Munich go out in the round of 16, Spurs reach the semi-final. Bayern Munich could still end up with more money than what Spurs do just purely on their coefficient payment. But because England is got the number one coefficiency ranking, that does change things. But again, it's the country, it's the club, it's very complicated, and I think UEFA do it so people can't actually work out what they're going to get until they get it, and then when they get it, they're like, okay, this must be right because UEFA are giving us this much money. But that's just
me personally. I look at this as like, this can't just be a one-off Champions League experience, right? This summer has to be done right, where we're actually going to put ourselves in a position where we can qualify. If that is what the order of business is for this board, to maximize Champions League for the only reason of making the valuation go up 5%. Then that has to reflect somewhat in the ambition of the summer transfer window. But David Clark says the two Travis Stock lawyers from the Bahamas who once worked for the Travis Stock Group and are in control of the Lewis Family Trust, so they are not Daniel Levy stooges. They are 100% Joe Lewis. So it sounds like
okay.
So it does sound like it almost kind of feels like they're going to try to push Levy out here, at least of the football club from the operation side.
Yeah, I mean, Tequila's flooding the chat tonight. I love it, Tequila. He goes on to say, you're paying for the reputation of the club, are you not? Yes, you are. He says, Spurs have generally been a top 6 team for the past 15 years. So we have a few seasons out, but on average, though, our finish this year will drastically lower. Our finish this year will drastically lower that average. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it will drastically lower the average. And the good thing is that the coefficiency in the UEFA Champions League or Europe, Tequila, doesn't necessarily reflect on your league finishing. It is purely regarding your European or continental competitions that you are in. So like Chelsea's average, because they were only in the Conference League, you get less coefficient points for being in the Conference League than the Champions League or the Europa League, and the Europa League gets less coefficient points for being in than the Champions League. But like in this season's European competitions, English teams were deep in all competitions. Manchester United and Spurs, Chelsea in the Conference League, Aston Villa, Arsenal.
Liverpool to an extent. Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool. Yeah.
I think they got to didn't they get to the round of 16 or a quarterfinal?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it was the quarterfinal. I think they went out the same round that Aston Villa went out, quarterfinal stage. Aston Villa went out. I think Aston Villa went out to Paris Saint-Germain.
Did Liverpool go out to like Bayern Munich or Barcelona or something like that? Or no, it was Real Madrid, wasn't it? It was Madrid, right?
Yeah, Real Madrid. Yeah.
Yeah. So the before we move on, I definitely, because we're at the hour mark right now, and so we're gonna wind this down within the next couple of minutes. I do have to ask you this question, and we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but let's say hypothetically Spurs don't do much this offseason. Okay. Yeah. They have a mild summer transfer window. And by the way, it looks like Conall Glancy of Celtic looks like he's set to join Spurs. I do not have any contract information of what he would be playing or how many years, but it looks like he wants to join Tottenham Hotspur. It looks like there's a mutual interest from that Celtic player. Number one, as you look at the roster right now, today, as it sits, no outgoings, but very few. Let me erase like with the outgoings that we would assume that are going to leave, versus a mild summer transfer window. Is this team closer to the top 10?
Yeah.
Or is it or is it closer to the relegation line, in your opinion?
Sorry, Steve. My stream went a bit funny there. Can you just repeat that for me again?
Yeah. So imagine that our outgoings are, the guys that are leaving because their contract runs out. Maybe Richarlison, Basuma leaves, but we retain Betancourt and Romero, and we only have a mild summer transfer window. We don't get necessarily anything of substance. Is this team closer to the top 10, or is it closer to the relegation line?
Now, when you say mild, I'm just going to try and figure this out in my brain really quick. When you say mild, are we talking a summer spend of maybe one or two players?
We'll just say last year's summer transfer window where we get 3 youngsters in and 1 ready-made player.
Mid-table at best.
Mid-table. So you're talking like what, 10 through 15, somewhere in that area?
I would say anywhere from as high as 8th down to 13th, 14th. That sort of thing. I mean, I'm trying to think of the squad. I'm thinking about the squad that we've got. I mean, you're going to have Bergvall, who's going to have another season. He's had a season in the Premier League. You've got Archie Gray, who's had the season in the Premier League. I'd like to see Mikey Moore be developed a little bit more, but I'm getting strong inklings that he's going to be loaned out to West Brom. Luka Vuskovic is coming in. There's potential Dragusin and Bisic swaps. Unless we have a big window, I can't see us breaking the top 8. So yeah, I can't see it happening. I can't.
Gerard O'Connor says Mikey Moore off to Scotland, and I'm curious, Gerard, do you think that's on a permanent deal or a loan? Just curious to see, because I'm under the impression that for me at least, I think Mikey Moore could use a season of first team football, whether that be in the Championship or League One, somewhere, on a team that's going to be competing for promotion, that's going to be able to give him valuable minutes of the first team. Because the last thing I want is Mikey Moore to sit on the bench again for another season. I don't think it does anything good for his development.
Celtic, Gerard, on a loan?
Yeah,
surely Celtic can't afford.
Because I thought Mikey Moore was set to. I thought because I thought I heard that they're going to extend him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, so it'll be a loan.
Yeah, David Clark says Mikey Moore signed a new Mikey Moore signed a contract, so it will be a loan. Yeah.
Celtic, huh?
Yeah. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
Don't you think that might be a level a little too high for Mikey Moore, or do you think he could compete at the Scottish Prem?
Oh, I think he could tear up the Scottish Premiership. To be fair. Look, I'm not just taking anything away from the Scottish Premiership. It's a very, very good league. But I would put the Scottish Premiership in the sort of same ilk as Championship level.
Well, see, the thing about it is the only reason why I ask, and I know we're veering off, but when I think of the Championship, I think spots 1 through 15, you're actually going to get competitive teams. And I'm not talking about the Plymouth Argyles of the world, or the not Coventry City, but Cardiff City. You know what I mean? Those type of teams, that Derby County. You know what I mean? No offense to those three teams, but that being said, there's more competition in the championship versus Celtic, Rangers, maybe Aberdeen, and then the rest. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. I think
there's sort of
thing in a more
four. Yeah, I think the championship would give him better development. I think it's a tougher league. In regards to game by game, it's a tougher game by game, and than certainly playing in Scotland, where some of the teams really struggle for quality, and I think he would pretty much tear it up there. I mean, look, if he goes up to Celtic and he does that, I tip me hat, and that's really sort of.
Has like a 15-10 season with Celtic, that would be impressive. Yeah, I would actually think that's impressive. I just look at this, and when I take a step back, and I look at this upcoming window, really, the areas of need, and I know that you and I have discussed this at length. For me, the area of need are both on both sides of the wing, both left and right. Another striker and potentially a 10 if you want. When I think about it, it's the ability, and especially for a guy like Thomas Frank, who kind of plays a little bit like Enzo Maresca with Chelsea, where they have that secondary 10 playing in a double pivot to start, but usually what happens is one fullback will invert to create that double pivot where that secondary 10 then makes runs forward in that type of attack. Which is why Chelsea was so good with Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez as those two high attacking 10s. So for me, it's like if we can solidify that by adding another 10, and I think you mentioned that too, that you would have no problem putting Dejan Kulusevski on the right wing if they brought in somebody like Eze, somebody of that quality. Because I think me personally, because I think that if that is highlighted, another 10 is highlighted, I'm perfectly fine with 3 6s of Rodrigo Betancourt, Lucas Bergvall, and Archie Gray. I'm perfectly fine with those 6s, 100%.
Yeah, I'm quite comfortable with. Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall are wonderful raw talents that we've got in the team. And in the squad, I would like to see maybe adding another experienced head in there to sort of help guide them. There's Pat Psar in there as well, but again, he's still only young. And people say, "Oh, our midfield is light. But when you look at actually our midfield, it's not that light. It's not like we've only got one or two players there. I do see another another number 6 coming in, but I think it will probably be another young number 6. I would be very intrigued to see what is going to happen with. It depends on the manager to what system we're going to play and what positions we're going to look at. And I think that's probably why, as well, the transfer window is going to be a little bit quiet for the time being, because we've got no manager, so we don't know what system we're going to be playing. So what's the point in signing a player that might not even be able to play for the club because he doesn't fit the system that the new manager wants? So. I think it will. With transfers, it's now just we have to be patient. We have to get this manager in. Be patient until the manager comes in, and then when the actual summer window opens again after, I think it's the 16th of June, because I think it runs from the 1st to the 10th. It closes for a wet spell and then it reopens again. I just think we have to be a little bit patient. And with regards to transfer rumours, of course, we will keep you apprised of any updates that we get. But I'm going to take everything I read with a little bit of pinch of salt. Gerard quickly asks us, do you think Dane Scarlett is better than Troy Parrott?
Right now, no. I think Troy Parrott proved this year with AZ Alkmaar that he is at least at the level to be able to carry the attack for for an Eredivisie side. I thought Troy Parrott actually played very well this season for AZ Alkmaar, and I think he kind of established himself at that level. One of the things that Dane Scarlett has yet to do is establish himself. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's been on the loan, the constant loans, where he's never been able to at least stay in one spot and actually play regular games. For him to establish himself at this point, so I would probably say that Troy Parrott's probably better than Dane Scarlett at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you on that one, Steve. Look, guys, we're going to wrap that up for tonight. It's been an interesting show. I hope you found it interesting anyway. Like Steve said at the top of the show, please like, please subscribe, please share. You can find Steve. Where can we find you, Steve?
Stateside Footy, which is on X. You'll find me there, and of course on YouTube at Stateside Footy. And you know what? Coming up on Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, which would probably be 1 o'clock in the morning UK time, it is the U.S. men's national team live stream, and I believe they're going to be playing Switzerland. Today they're playing Turkey, so this is the pre-Gold Cup warm-up. So I will definitely be carrying that live stream, which will be available also on the Full-Time Sports Network as well too. So there's going to be a lot of U.S. men's national team, at least for the first couple of days of this upcoming week, as well as Tottenham Hotspur news. And I'm hoping James, I'm hoping beyond any type of wish, that whoever the new head coach is, it's going to be announced on a Monday or Tuesday. I just do not want to see this thing drag out.
Yeah, I don't want another Nuno experience where we're waiting 70 plus days to get a manager in. That would just be completely and utterly disastrous. Ashley says it here. She said it in a couple of comments. All by design. They don't care about league position. Why didn't they sack him? If it was all about the league position, they would have sacked him a long time ago. I think she seems to fit, she or he, I don't know exactly. Ashley's multisexuality. They let this happen. They have an excuse to not spend. I agree, Ashley. They've done it on a purpose.
You would think that if they did care about the league position, they probably would have sacked Dan Tamworth. You probably would.
Yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely. But thank you very much, guys. Like I say, please like, please share, please subscribe to the video. We are trying to get up to 5K till at the end of next season. If any of you guys want to follow me, I'm on X at THFC James. That's where I'm at. Please give me a follow. I do try to keep posting on there and keep people updated about what's going off and any information I get. Also, you can find me on here. I don't believe we're doing a stream tomorrow, Steve, but I will be.
Yeah, because tomorrow's Father's Day, and I hope you guys all do your fathers a favor by calling them and letting them know how much you care about them. Tomorrow is all about the love for Dad. So yeah, for sure. I don't think we have anything planned now.
No, we don't have anything planned, but please be aware, guys, if anything breaks or any kind of news comes out, either myself or Steve will jump on it as quick as we can and give you the lowdown of what we know. But it's been a pleasure, Steve. Thank you very much. It's getting dark in here now as well. I've just realised. But I've really enjoyed it. Dermo's still on holiday. He's living life in the UK at the moment. He's over in England. I may be popping to see him
It's all about
tomorrow.
It's all about that champagne lifestyle and caviar dreams, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try and see if I can sort out where he is and pop to see him tomorrow. Meet the big Dermatron in the flesh, so to speak, and the lovely Derv. But yeah, guys, thank you very much, and we will bid you a good night, good evening, good morning to our Australian viewer, because I did see him pop on.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining us at such early in the morning. But yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Stay tuned for all your top breaking news, because you know we have a #1 channel for breaking news, and we always get it right, and we don't lie to you. And on that bombshell, good night, and thank you very much.
From lane to far and wide, with the pride of the fight on this journey.